Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this issue. And I've been teaching strategy course for a long time, and also I've been using Marketplace as the critical tool for students for almost 15 years to 16 years. And I've been thinking about can we improve a little bit over the current marketplace game, and what are the things that we can add to it to complement it, and also address some of the deficiencies that we see in the current strategy teaching in the business school now. And the two things I want to talk a little bit more is two tools. One is the scenario planning, and the other one is business working. So for the strategy discipline, we've been using cases for decades. And most of these cases are written for one-time use. And students will get the sort of a fixed material and going through the conditions and come up with some assessment. And then they come up with some answers or suggestions for the decision makers within the case. And the problem with this approach is they tend to be more static. They tend to be talking about the past and not focusing on the future. And I believe marketplace have been the critical tool that we have to overcome some of those deficiencies in cases. And I really love marketplace in dealing with not only the sort of the past, but we have multiple rounds of decisions, and we look into the future, and we have students plan for quarter 4, 5, 6. So you're at least looking at 3 quarters away, which is forcing students to think strategically, think long term, and that's critical for their success. However, and as a longtime sort of practitioner of marketplace, and I see something that just not as optimal as I wanted. The first thing is once you play marketplace long enough, or you probably will realize that it has some winning formula to it. And if you see enough winning teams, you realize that if you commit, if you are a big risk taker and you commit early, and you will also put in a lot of resource to it, and chances are you are going to be a winner. And so that's somewhat linear algorithm behind the scene. And students tend to say, if they realize that, that becomes a problem, and they will always say that the industry will be developing, and we are always on the rising curve, and the demand is always expanding, and so the sort of one-dimensional strategy will always win out. But reality tend to be a lot more complex, right? And in the future of any business, you will see different industries will be at different stage of their industry life cycle. And sometimes you run into major industry disruptions like COVID, right? And that can totally disrupt or sort of make your original great expansion plan obsolete, and or leads to disastrous results. So I think one thing we can add to the game or to the course design is that we want to have something called scenario planning, and give students the chance to explore different futures and different future directions. It can be great, it can be bad, it can be terrible, but we need to see if our strategy can sustain in many of these scenarios. And so you need to sort of stress test your strategies, and you have to understand what are the different futures or different major disruptions that can happen. And once you decide on a particular scenario or a particular decision, you can really use business war game to stress test your original thinking, original strategy. And it certainly challenges your original assumption about a situation, about how an industry will evolve, what stage of development it is in, and so on and so forth. And in the business war game, and that's somewhat different from marketplace simulation as we see now, is that we add more stakeholders to it. Because in marketplace, we don't really talk about who are the suppliers, who are the actual customers, who are the regulators, who are the let's say the community that the company is in. And so we want to, in the business game, war game, we want to recreate a almost digital twin of the actual business world. And that gave us the chance to see the sort of the side of more complex environment. And every one of these stakeholders can bring opportunities and can bring challenges to a business. And so war game give you the chance to stress test your original strategy and give you the chance to see how each of these party can move when you are moving into one of your strategic decisions. And so that's one of the advantage of business war games. But let me sort of go through these two masters in a little bit more detail. And when you are trying to use scenario planning, the major process you tend to go through is the first one, you identify within your industry, what are the driving forces? What are the big events? What are the things that's sort of coming? And you're going to ask students to identify all these different driving forces, and then you will prioritize them and in terms of how likely this will happen and how big the impact will be. And eventually you will select out of all these driving forces the top two that you think is very important, have a big impact, and also very has a big chance of happening. And so that gave you the critical uncertainties, and then you will plot them onto this sort of 2x2. Then you have these 4 scenarios. And within each of the scenario, you will ask students to tell the story there, really come up with a narrative, a story about a particular scenario, and ask them sort of to live into that world and see how their firm will perform in that situation and how their strategy can sustain in that kind of a situation. When it comes to war game, one advantage of the war game is that we're not limited by the pre-assigned industry anymore. As of now, we have the biking and the computer industry. And with war game, you can customize in almost any industry you want, in any critical decisions a firm in any industry may face. And then you can sort of analyze the industry, the background, and you can come up with the background story. And after that, you can identify who are the players, who are the competing firms, who are the stakeholders in the marketing. They are essentially simulating the environment you are in. Again, the government agencies, the customers, the suppliers, distributors, and so on and so forth. Once you have all these roles set up, and then you start to ask questions to the students, what's your first move? And without knowing what the other teams are going to do, without knowing what the other stakeholders will do. And once you present your first decision, first set of strategies, then you start to get feedback from all your stakeholders. And you are also going to see what the other competitors are planning to do. So that's your round 1. And with the new information collected from your stakeholders and also from your competitors, then you know what kind of things that you don't know before. And with these new information, you will go to your round two. And typically in round two, I'll inject some disruptions within the industry, whether it's a global pandemic, whether it's a war in Mid East, and so on and so forth. And that again forces them to incorporate these major changes and rethink about their strategy, rethink about their assumptions about the future. And that forces them to change their strategies, adapt to the new reality. And then they go into round two and again in round three. At the end, you will have all the teams sit together and start to have a debrief meeting or the after action report and thinking about what has happened in this game so far. What are the um, um, disruptions that come up that we think is very likely and it's going to affect our business? And also, what are the major trends that's coming that we need to monitor over time? And eventually also, since we're stress testing our original strategy, now after all these different three rounds, what's our final strategy should be. And so this will give us the chance to, again, look at other industries, look at other critical decisions, and start to understand industry can go many different directions given the situation change. And there are a lot more forces at play other than just your competitors. So those are the sort of two tools I actually use in my strategy course, whether at the undergraduate level or the graduate level. So within one course, I tend to give them the chance to play a little bit of scenario planning. And marketplace is my centerpiece, and I use that to sort of guide them through at least 10 weeks. And after that, I always run a war game, whether it's small mini war game with 2 rounds or more complete with 3 rounds. And that's my sort of understanding of what's missing with the current strategy teaching approach and also what's potentially be expandable by marketplace to incorporate scenario planning to give students a better understanding of what are the different industry stages they could be walking into and how that affects their decisions. And with the war game, you get a 360 view of the entire ecosystem that you are in. And so beyond your competitors, you're going to have to deal with other stakeholders that will also have a big impact on your business. And you need to have them in your mind when you are making your strategy for the future. And so those are the things that I've been incorporating in my strategy teaching course. Hopefully it's going to be a little bit helpful for you guys. Thank you.